Skulk is a game of bluffing and deception.
You have a bunch of different colored marbles in a skull.
You pull a marble from a skull.
You can claim what color you've seen,
but you could also lie and take any other action as long as you don't get caught.
It's a game that gets people to sit around a table and tell lies to each other in a fun way.
When we first started this game, it was based off of some trend research.
We were actually looking in retail and seeing what trends were happening.
And we were seeing some interesting aesthetic things happening.
One was that skulls were really popular,
especially kind of this minimalistic approach to skulls.
And we also saw that
brass and gold tones.
We were seeing rose gold was being used as a color.
In all sorts of different categories, we're seeing all these geometric shapes.
This kind of polygonal look, things comprised of triangles. We kind of put three elements together and it was just magic when we saw the result.
Playing off that look, I did a lot of the design originally, started in the sort of geometric patterns.
Clean cut, geometric, almost like based on alchemical symbols.
We didn't want to go too occult looking.
Walking that line between something threatening and creepy and beautiful is a really interesting design challenge.
So then we started down sort of a turquoise blue, unusually happy palette for what we would normally think of a skull.
We were using rose gold foil, which is going to look really, really nice on this bluish green turquoise.
It's a little fabulous. One of our game designers said it was the Glam Reaper.
So we wanted to see how we could turn that into a game.
We want a game developed that uses the skull as a core component of the game. It's critical.
I had the idea of like, wouldn't it be cool to open a skull's mouth and see like a marble sitting there?
His original idea, we'd all have our own little skull.
I think it was like 4 or 6 small skulls.
8 little skulls
that could hold 3 marbles.
You would look into the skull and see a marble, and then you would claim what that marble was.
Based on what colors you'd get, you could take an action.
But you could also lie and take any other action as long as you don't get caught.
And somehow marbles were flowing in and out of the skulls.
So we said, all right, this is very interesting.
Some sort of bluffing game made sense with the skull.
Immediately someone was like, that is going to be so expensive.
From what we understand in manufacturing, we couldn't include a skull for everyone at the table, and we wanted it to be more of a party game.
One skull is kind of expensive enough, but to have every player have their own skull was just going to be too much.
Now, take all of that and do it with one skull.
That would be more impactful.
So we narrowed it down to 1.
And then we took about 6 weeks to figure out how to do it with one skull.
And I mean, it went through several iterations.
I'm sure if I went through my computer, there'd be 7 to 10 like prototypes.
Initially, we had it so that when you drew a marble, it meant an action.
It was kind of convoluted.
But things changed when Brian Kirk, one of our game designers, he came up with the idea that we had area control.
Where you place your own tokens on these colored mats that matched marbles.
It's about trying to keep your lives and claim territory on these tiles in the center.
This was one of those ones that was just a really big team effort.
The biggest obstacle in this game was probably the skull itself. You know, we needed to open and to reveal a marble.
Shake the skull and dispense randomly 1 marble at a time.
You need to make sure that if you put it in and shook it up, a different one will come out.
They needed the skull to also hold not just the marbles, but to hold all the game pieces that came with it.
We had to find a clever way to create a compartment in the skull so that all the components can pack away.
We had to do work with playtesters to see how they interact with this.
It was really interesting to see how people use that prototype.
People were loving the game in playtesting, but they felt that the skull was a little bit clumsy. I really had to go back to a redesign at that point. It became super apparent that the marble would fall out.
We had to make this little seat in there just right.
The solution for that was to add a return spring so that the jaw would tend to go backwards.
So it's a lot to fit inside this skull.
The most exciting moment for me was when I actually got to play the game with the well-functioning skull.
It's something that people grasp instantly.
Even though you can play it pretty quickly, there's a lot that can change from game to game.
The game is very different with depending on who you play with.
It can be as complex as you want it to be just through the social aspect of it.
You get to know your coworkers or the other people you're playing with.
The first time you play it, you're going to play it one way, and then when you play it again, you're going to play it a totally different way. You're going to come up with strategies that work for you as an individual player.
You can grow with the game, like all great games are.
Not only is it a fun game, but it looks good.
This might be my favorite thing that I've produced.
It seems like we hit it. We just nailed it.